So inside this box is the largest portable monitor that I've ever unboxed on this channel. This is the UPERFECT Delta Mega, and it comes in this white box. I'm really excited to see how this Delta Mega foldable portable monitor looks like, since we're getting two massive displays. All right, and here is the Delta Mega, and I gotta say the weight on this is definitely heavy. All right, so there it is, the Delta Mega in the closed position here. It's definitely massive, but I'm really impressed how they're able to manage to put two 23.8-inch displays in this really nice foldable design. Let's take that out over here. This thing is so large, so it's really hard for me to, so I definitely have to remove the box out of the way, but let's get a better close-up of the Delta Mega here. So this has two 23.8-inch IPS displays, which allows you to obviously stack them together, which is pretty cool. The actual hinge itself does have a lot of stability and multiple ranges, which is really nice. And what's cool about the Mega is that on the back we have a stand here that would allow you to position the Delta Mega and open it up so that you can have a massive stack setup. I mean, 23.8 inches times 2. I mean, we're talking about 46, 47 inches of total screen real estate, which is crazy. Now taking a look at the inputs here, while we have it out here. On this side we have all of our controls here, and you do have some symbols here for exactly what they are. This will be the power button, and we have some navigation buttons up and down, and a 3.5mm headphone jack. And then on the other side is going to be our inputs. We're going to get one full-size HDMI, so I love the fact that this is full-size and not mini, and two USB-C ports, which gives you a lot of versatility of devices that you can connect on here. And on the back, we have these mount holes here. This is 100 by 100, so you can have this on a monitor arm, which is awesome. And of course, it comes in this really nice, sleek black color. A lot of different orientation that you can have this on. So let's go ahead and see what else we get inside the box. So we're gonna get a user manual, a full-size HDMI cable, two USB-C to C cables, and finally a USB-C power adapter. Now this is rated at 45 watts to give it enough powers in case your devices don't supply enough power. You definitely want to use a separate power adapter to ensure stability and performance. All right, I have the Delta Mega right now connected to my PC. Depending on which one you use, whether you're using Windows or Mac, now the Mac has certain limitations. So if you want your MacBook or macOS device to have two separate inputs, you have to have two separate input cables, versus Windows, whether it's a laptop or a PC, you're able to run just one USB-C cable and have two separate inputs detected with that one USB-C cable, which makes it more convenient. Now, of course, depending on your MacBook as well, you want to pay attention to what processor you have on your MacBook, because it all depends on the processor. Because of course, this being the latest one, this is an M4 Max, so it supports up to 4 external displays, whereas a base M4 will only support one external display. So unfortunately, when it comes to an M4, for example, you can only run one external display and that's it. The way this is connected right now is that this Delta Mega with this USB-C cable right over here is connected to the back of the motherboard. So the motherboard in question that I have right now is the X870E Aorus Pro Ice, which has USB 4 that basically connects to the integrated graphics on my CPU. This is the 9950X3D. So if you have a motherboard with USB 4 inputs, then you can utilize that one cable. Now, as for the secondary USB-C cable, it is connected to an external battery bank, powering both screens with separate inputs, which is awesome. Taking a look at the system settings here on display, each one of these display have the option to, of course, on the advanced display, set its own refresh rate. So I have it maxed out 100 Hertz, of course. And if I wanted to have a completely different setup here, let's say this bottom one, I want this one to have a scale of 125%, for example. So this display is currently at 125%, but on the top one, it still remains independent. That's an awesome feature. Now, on the side of the monitor, we have that link option. So if I press on it real quick, you're gonna notice fill is on. And once I click on that, it will automatically switch the inputs. And as you see, by pressing that one button, this dual screen now acts as one display, which is awesome. So if we go back to, let me just drag this here real quick. Let me just arrange this real quick. So right now, if I scroll this here, it acts as a giant, almost 48-inch display, which is awesome. It is definitely an awesome, convenient thing here. Now, of course, the separation of the hinge and the bezels does make it harsher, but by taking advantage of the full almost 48-inch screen real estate, I think that's awesome and incredible. All right, now we're on the MacBook Pro, and the way this connects to this monitor, it's a little bit different versus Windows. Now, depending on your specific laptop, it may or may not supply enough power to power this whole display up. In my scenario here, using the M4 Max MacBook Pro, it wasn't enough to power on these displays with just a single USB-C cable, so I do have to use a separate power adapter. So right now, I have the USB-C connected for power, one USB-C connected to the MacBook Pro, and I will be showing you how the HDMI would work. But for now, we don't have HDMI connected. We just have a single USB-C connected. And when it comes to MacBooks, there's only two different configurations if you're using just one input cable. So this is what's considered a BB configuration, whereas if I drag this window here, you'll notice that both the top and the bottom screen are mirrored to each other. And the way it looks like on the display settings is that it only detects one display. Now you could take advantage of the mode selector here. So if I switch it to fill on with that simple click of a button, it will basically merge the screens like I showed you earlier. And as you can see, now we have that same giant display here. And if I go ahead and drag the window, which I have to rearrange again, hold on one second, let me just move the built-in display. Now if I drag the window to the left, you'll notice now that I can utilize basically this whole thing. What you could do now is basically have whatever program you want. Go ahead and resize the windows. So let's say I resize this window to take up this whole screen. And let's say I want to drag a secondary screen on the bottom display. That's one way to kind of like utilize these two screens if you're using the fill mode to on. Because when it's off, then of course it will have mirrored functions. Or you can have it fill up and you can resize the windows. Now the only way on Mac to get these two to be read as two separate inputs is by using a secondary input, which is that HDMI. And that only applies when you have a MacBook or Mac device that can support up to 2 or more displays. So something like an M4 can only function with one external display, so you have to run it this way. But since this MacBook does have HDMI, I can use HDMI to HDMI, or I can use a USB-C to HDMI. That's another way to do it as well if your MacBook supports it. So I'm going to connect the HDMI real quick. And now with HDMI on, it says right now the fill is set to on. If I click on the button where now it says fill off, it will basically separate the inputs. And as you can see, looking on top over here, you can see now that there are 2 additional displays being shown. And if I hit arrange, I can go ahead and arrange it however I want to. And this is basically the only way to have 2 separate displays. So now I can drag this window, and then now if I maximize it, this will only maximize this actual display, maximize this one, and now we have 2 independent displays. And again, your Apple device has to have the chip that supports 2 or more displays. Now I really like this form factor a lot. Adding 2 large displays stacked up against each other, I think this works perfectly if you just have a single desk, and having those 2 screens make it really nice. Or if you're someone like me that has, let's say, a main display and you want to add 2 screens without having to purchase 2 separate displays and mount it and put all the cables on the back, then a form factor like this becomes very convenient, because if I don't want to use this anymore, I can easily close it and take it out of the way, and I can always just bring it back, which is an awesome thing. Looking at the quality of the display here, of course, we have a standard IPS panel, which, you know, looks pretty much fine for any type of standard IPS panel. I do wish that the resolution was higher, but because the screen is still relatively right under 24 inches, the PPI is not that bad. And we can see over here that the PPI on each of these displays is about 92.56, which isn't bad at all. If I were to compare that to a 1440p 27-inch monitor, it's still a little bit sharper, but not by that much. And then if we change this to, let's say, a 32-inch 1440p monitor, then you can see here the sharpness is just about the same. So that is perfectly fine. I think the colors are pretty decent as well. And I just love the fact that you're getting so much screen real estate, because let's say if I want to, let's say, move DaVinci Resolve over here, and let's go ahead and maximize this over here. You can easily rearrange windows, which is awesome here. If I want to put, let's say, DaVinci over here, of course, we would want to obviously maximize it, but you can see I have a lot of screen real estate and I can easily still be very productive and multitask effectively, which is awesome. So if you're planning to add something like this, I mean, I think it's very convenient, because just look at the size of the thing. And I will say that the stability of this stand is really good, very sturdy, which is very important to hold up a display like this. Of course, you can maneuver the hinges. Now there comes a point, of course, where the hinge and the weight of the screen will automatically cause the screen to kind of fall on its own, but I want to say it does a pretty good job. So if I were to, like, you know, kind of bend it here, let's see. Still very stable. Let's go ahead. So right about here, the weight of the display starts to automatically, you know, move down very slowly. But I will say that that hinge is still very sturdy. As you can see here, maybe if I kind of lift it up a little bit, it'll fall back down. But it comes to a point where it comes to a complete stop, and then I can continue to kind of force it. And then this is as much as I can go here. So it's not technically a full 360 degrees, but again, it does offer a lot of versatility. I think for most, you're just gonna have a standard stack, and depending on how you want your monitors to stack up, whether you want this one to have more of a tilt, then you can do that. And this is something that's very convenient, like I said, because even if you were to buy two separate 24-inch displays, having this much maneuverability, sure, you can have it on a monitor arm, but as you know, with monitor arms, sometimes it's really hard to get things to move exactly where you want it, where this portable form factor makes it so much easier for me to just easily tilt this here, tilt it back. That makes it very convenient. So the Delta Mega comes in at about $650, and UPERFECT has hooked it up with a special discount code that I'll put in the description box below, which you could definitely save a huge chunk. Now when it comes to comparing it with just buying two separate 24-inch screens, then of course you're losing a lot of value with the Delta Mega, because right now 24-inch 1080p screens can go under $100. So having two, you're just under $200 for basically two screens. However, if you wanted to do a stack setup, keep in mind that you are going to have to purchase a monitor stand that you can have a stack layout, and you also have to consider the fact that once you mount that monitor arm, it does add a lot of complexity, because now you have to run all the wires, all the power adapters, and then once everything is said and done, your two 24-inch screens are pretty much stuck there. Maybe you'll have like a monitor arm that has you know, a little bit of flexibility. You're pretty much stuck there. I think the biggest selling point of the Delta Mega is the portability of the fact that you can add two stacked screens virtually anywhere. So I can easily take this out, move it to over here if I wanted to, or take it with me and have a really nice setup. And I think that's one of the biggest selling points. Now, I do wish that the resolution was a little bit higher. I think 1440p would have been great. However, 1080p is still perfectly fine. Now, do I ever see myself carrying this with me wherever I go? Probably not. But UPERFECT also has smaller foldable stack screens if you prefer something smaller. But I love the fact that UPERFECT is giving you so many different options and so many different sizes. I personally wouldn't use this as my main screen since I already have a 4K display, but having it as a secondary and third display, I think this comes in clutch. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about the UPERFECT Delta Mega. It's definitely on the pricier side, but having two massive displays on this portable form factor, I think comes in pretty clutch. If you're interested in getting this monitor or the many tech that you've seen in this video, I will have affiliate links down below, which also helps to support the Firewolf Tech channel. I want to thank UPERFECT for sending this and sponsoring this video so I can showcase this massive foldable dual screen to you guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Firewolf out.